You got your handheld?
Yeah. That's fine. Does this work? No. Not clicking? I can click here, it's fine. Okay, hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, because this is the third time that I'm happy to be speaking on this conference, so happy to be back. Okay, it's getting fixed, thanks. So I'm Mark, I work at Coalesce. I'm part of the founding team for EMEA, and I work there as a sales engineer. So I'm not going to do a sales pitch today. I'm actually going to talk about, well, you have to find a snow theme, right? So, but it's basically looking forward. So if you remember from last year, I talked about a guy named Fred, an imaginary guy. He's a data engineer, and well, he's a special data engineer because he also loves skiing, which may not be that special in this room per se, but he also loves solving complex data problems. So he has been, he started off as a data engineer, and I talked a lot about him last year, where he basically was struggling. Yeah, thanks. He was struggling at this company where he was in the lead as a data engineer, and he was the only one to begin with. And then after a while, he started getting colleagues, and he had his own framework. So he basically built this Python-based, template-driven metadata framework, and all of his colleagues could use it, but there was one big problem. He was the single point of failure. So if he would get off the slope very quickly, there would not be a framework to manage anymore, and basically all of the data engineering pipelines would need to be managed manually. So he was drowning in work because every little change needed him to be involved. And this is basically what his challenge was when we started out last year. Now, what he did, okay, so that's basically what I've already mentioned. So what he suffered from, as a summary, implementation cost, training cost, maintenance was labor intensive, Snowflake spend, because obviously Fred put everything in the cloud, as you do, and he put everything on Snowflake, but because all the code was manually written, still a lot of it at least, the spend was out of control, and he had no way of controlling that. Onboarding, so growing that team, getting more colleagues, was very, very tricky, because he had to explain his framework, which was basically impossible. He had to explain all the code, all the pipelines. There was no documentation, because who documents? And so projects got delayed, productivity was lost, and basically the company was losing money. The entire company was suffering from this, because delivery of every single question. And this is tying back also to the great conversations that were held earlier today. Everything is about value. Everything is about people as well. People are asking questions to help the business grow, to help the company grow. That's what the value is, essentially. And so if you, as the data team, cannot deliver the answer to the question in time, it's not relevant anymore. So why are you even trying to answer the question if it's become redundant? So slowing the project delivery is basically destroying the business, because it becomes blind. Management team becomes blind. If they can't use facts to determine where to go, yeah, what are you doing? You're just doing it on feelings. So that doesn't work. And then maintenance, I mentioned it, excessive costs just to keep the light on. So basically, running, putting out fires all the time without having the ability to actually start innovating. A lot of the talk today has been about AI, which was, by the way, a refreshing change and an important one as well, because if you look at the first, this is just a side note, if you look at the first Winter Data Conference, the SKID 2 years ago, it was not really about AI at all. It was still about the modern data stack and how that was kind of on the decline. And then last year it was a little bit about AI, but you see a big gap this year, a big change, big jump forward to everything being about AI, essentially. But Fred here has been seeing all of those initiatives, has been seeing all of the potential, but simply has no time to even consider going there. Even though the data quality might be up to speed because he does have a certain foundation there. So at least he did try to put a solid data foundation in place. So, before I move on, for those of you who don't know Coalesce, because this is kind of an important thing to know. So Coalesce does the T in ELT, which is the short way of saying that we focus on data transformations on Snowflake and actually other platforms as well now. So we sit in that middle part where getting the data from all your sources into Snowflake, into the cloud, has already been automated, has been for a long time using tools like Fivetran. And having that consumption, having that consumption part on the right-hand side where data scientists work, where reports are built. I mean, that's been automated for decades, right? With Cognos and everything, generating SQL to get that data and visualize it. And Snowflake obviously automates just about everything. It's the DBA's nightmare. And now the data transformation space is notoriously difficult because this is where the value comes in. So Fred has spent a whole year working with Coalesce, and he upped his team's productivity. And this is actually not just something that I made up. We see our customers doing this 8 times, 10 times more productivity. These are the real numbers, so this is really cool. Fred is seeing that as well. His team is more efficient, and I think someone mentioned it this morning as well. What do you do when you become more efficient? You don't lay off people. No, you go and do more. You can start innovating. You can do more. You need to answer more questions as well, because as your data platform grows, the data quality grows, the number of questions you can answer grows, complexity grows, but your business users, the people that you can reach out to, the people that you can answer questions for, that grows as well. So you need your people, and you need that productivity. Fred also became very good at skiing. He's now crushing the moguls on the double black diamond, so that's another important addition there. And basically, of course, he went from reactive, so putting out fires constantly, to proactive and being innovative and starting to think about AI. And his team is, as I mentioned, now supporting basically people around the entire company, all departments, not everyone yet, but all departments at least. So Fred is the data champion. Is that something to be very proud of? Well, in a way, yes, but it gives a whole new set of challenges. And that's what I'm doing here today. I'm talking about Fred, chapter 2. What are his new challenges? So he now has that data foundation, and he has that team, and he's working completely metadata driven. The code will just be generated on the fly. There's automation in place. It's all standardized. It's rock solid. Documentation is there. So he's happy, but he has new challenges. So here's a colleague of Fred who has been hearing about AI as well. And he's like, yeah, what can we do? How can we use it? Could we even just have AI generate everything? So to actually already dive a little bit deeper into this, had a nice conversation over lunch as well today. AI can generate code, and some AI can generate code very well. But when you talk about data foundations, this becomes tricky because AI can generate code, but AI needs data, but it also needs context. And context is everything. Without context, you're just guessing. And so let's say you have an AI that generates all the code, but without having any of the context. It just has raw data. And then the output is stored and is input again. And you get kind of, if the data was bad, that's kind of what was mentioned this morning as well. Garbage in, garbage out. But if that garbage that comes out also goes in again, you get even worse. You get a negative cycle. And you get completely useless stuff. And you basically lose confidence as well. So it's also about confidence in that data, confidence in the output of AI. So my personal thought here is that yes, AI can really accelerate development, but you still need context from your business user. And you want to see, or you want to know what code is being generated. You want to control that. So that perfect balance between human input, basically metadata and template-driven code generation, just old-fashioned code generation, there's nothing wrong with that, and filling in the blanks using AI at a high pace by generating, maybe generating the code, but reviewing the code, having your engineering team build that code in an efficient way using AI support, that's all fine. So it's AI-assisted engineering there. But that's Fred's thought already when reading this, so we'll get back to that. Meanwhile, another message came in from the boss saying, hey, I went to a conference in Verbier, and there were a lot of talks about AI capabilities. I think it was Jay actually talking about the AI capabilities on Snowflake. Now there's document AI, you have the Cortex AI, of course, doing all this stuff, translating, summarizing. How can we use that? And then meanwhile, he's also saying, yeah, the data science team, they do a lot of their stuff on Databricks. They're not on Snowflake. So how can we kind of help them? Because of course it's perfect if we have one central data platform. So how could we work on that? Oh, and by the way, present it tomorrow morning during the all hands. Wow. All right, and meanwhile, another one comes in from the controller saying, oh, how do we calculate gross profit? A lot of detailed questions about how things are being calculated, and do we include special margin factors? Well, you don't have to read it all, but basically a very detailed question about the data that he gets delivered. So there's a lot of questions coming in, even more coming in across Slack from all the data engineers across the company and managers and all kinds of levels about dashboards being broken, about a table that they don't know what it means, access, who made it. There's a lot of confusion. So yes, Fred is building his data platform very efficiently, and his team is churning out products at a high pace. But now he's in trouble because so many users are happy with it, but even more users are having questions. And now we need to look in the future. And Fred is starting to go back to where he was because he's putting out fires again. But only the fire now is in his mailbox because that's exploding with questions because his platform is so popular now. So basically, summarizing that, what are his challenges? He wants to adopt AI. He has to adopt AI on different sides, right? Because on one hand, he wants his engineering team and his engineering process to use AI so he can speed up, be more efficient as a team, but also be able to adopt AI into the data pipelines themselves to actually tackle complicated challenges, like working with documents, summarizing documents, doing translations, getting structures out of that unstructured or semi-structured data. That's something that needs to be put into data pipelines so it can be done every time on new data sets as well. Then the second thing, going beyond those core data teams, the people who are not yet on Snowflake, how do you get them on the platform and how do you get a single vision? How can you share the data in a consistent way, in a safe way? Data governance, how do you track usage, sensitivity, popularity, quality? What is the value of a data product? That's something that he needs to track as well, because the amount of tables, the amount of reports and dashboards is exploding greatly. And so he needs to know what is being used, what isn't being used, which ones are high quality, which ones are low quality, the documentation, even though it might be AI generated, the documentation is still lacking. It might be outdated still, it might lack a bit of context from the business. You can't derive context from a case statement. So the AI cannot generate the context from just a case statement. And finally, that's more tying into the final point, collaborating with the business teams. The business teams are the consumers of the data products. They know what it's for. They know the value. They understand. They know why stuff has been programmed and calculated in the way it was. So we should find a way to put that back into the documentation in a simple way. And of course, people are getting more and more challenges around finding what they need. Going through all of those dashboards will not work anymore. So Coalesce can actually help on the AI part because there's already a package for Snowflake Cortex that can leverage all of those functions. So we simply generate, this is kind of how Coalesce works. It uses patterns and you can visually build your pipeline. So on that end, we can now simply add in these LLM steps that can leverage all of the Snowflake Cortex functionality. Then what we have as well in the catalog is you can put in natural questions and you can see the result instantly. So the AI will assist there as well. And of course, AI assistant engineering, as I mentioned, not the AI generating all the code. It's still based on templates and metadata, but the AI can actually build the pipeline for you. So that's one abstraction layer higher. So that's where Coalesce will help on the AI front. Now on the platform front, Coalesce was unique for Snowflake. And actually we still are focusing on Snowflake. But now we have expanded to Databricks. It's being released next week. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll add the Fabric support as well. And later this year, we'll be adding support for BigQuery, support for Redshift, and we will continue from there. This means that everyone can work on that same robust data foundation, which is very powerful. Just checking on time. Oh, that's fine. And you basically simplify complexity. And another thing here is why this is so important is the new separation of compute and storage. You've all heard of Iceberg, open tables. So you can now put your data somewhere that's not Snowflake, somewhere that's not Databricks, but in an open place, in a public almost space. And you just choose the correct compute engine that will fit your requirements, that will fit your workload that you're putting onto it. So from that perspective as well, Coalesce supports Iceberg. So you can put that data in a central space and you can then pick on a project level, which platform do I need? Which platform do I want to use? So that means all of your data teams, everyone building, using data, can start using Coalesce. So you have a holistic overview. Now another one is that business again, the people. The people have been a hot topic today, and the people know the value. I mentioned it before, the people know why stuff happens. The people know what it's worth to have certain numbers and what they mean and why they are calculated the way they are calculated. So this way, with a catalog, we can give an easy interface to those business users, effectively bridging the gap between the engineering teams, the data teams, and those data consumers, the business teams, so that they can add in the documentation, they can add their own context, they can also use AI for the simpler stuff. And yeah, there's a sync back as well, so it goes both ways. So this is really important. And of course, we still have what we have had from the beginning, one of our key elements, the column level lineage. Coalesce, of course, is built from the ground up on the column level. That's what people look at. They don't look at tables, they look at data in columns typically. So that's still there. But now there's context added, business context, value, you could say. Governance as well is important. Who is allowed to look at what? Is something containing sensitive information or not? This could even impact your data models, right? If you're using Data Vault, you want to put your PII information, your sensitive information in separate tables. So that might be interesting to know, and the business can put that in, and you can have your access controls built in here as well. So you can see who can use what, but also who uses what. So you can also track, if data products are unused and can simply be cleaned up, ultimately also bringing cost down. Then, yeah, that's the summary. So AI integration, multi-platform support, the Coalesce catalog, those are basically the things we are focusing on this year to help get Fred into the future. And so Fred can easily reply, right? He can reply to his colleague, hey, the metadata from Coalesce is perfectly positioned to provide that context for AI-assisted engineering. Consistent code, combined with human intelligence to get predictable and fast deliverables on that data. So don't quit just yet. We need the data engineers. The boss needed something tomorrow morning, so fine, yeah, we have Snowflake Cortex. He has a package downloaded from the Coalesce marketplace. It's already installed. He can give a demo live in the morning, perfectly fine. Also, Databricks, sure. Fred can spin up a new project on Coalesce in the same organization and actually start building directly on Databricks as well. So he can provide the data using Iceberg, which is also on the marketplace. So no problems for Fred. And lastly, this is actually a bit of a challenge, I admit, with Coalesce, where a business user might not know or might be a bit scared of Coalesce because it's a data tool, it's an engineering tool. So business users tend not to use it. But the documentation is in there. Right, so Fred actually will show the controller where they can find the information, that lineage, the column level information. But also, that's what Fred is explaining, you will simply be able to ask a simple question about the data, and the AI assistant will provide the answer based on actual data, based on metadata, based on user context that was added by the user itself in that data dashboard. So, last year I ended on Fred sitting at the bar on his own, waiting for questions, with a straw in his beer. And you may have guessed that this is all AI generated, and this I think proves a nice point as well as a closing remark where AI does help, but I think I needed to give him a little bit more assistance. Yes, question? Yeah, well that was... I know, that's what, so last year... So last year I didn't even tell the AI to add a straw into the beer, but it did. So this time I did ask. But is that the only weird thing about the picture, though? Sitting in a table is okay, no legs, all fine. So I think that kind of proves a point as well. Context is quite important. Sitting in a table is not comfortable. So we still need some human context there. All right, so thanks everyone. That's my talk for today.